All right, so a little bit more about what I'm doing this for. I'm not doing this to become YouTube famous or anything. Basically, over the last few years, especially, I've kept in touch with a few people, and it's as we get older, we've been or reaching out to touch base with each other and bringing up a lot of the old memories and stories. And we're all getting to that age where if we don't use our memories, we're not going to keep them. So like I said, I want to bring some smiles to some people's faces. And I know talking to everybody, it makes me feel good to remember about all the times we had back in the day, and the fact that we've still got this connection after 40 years. So that's basically what I'm doing. Anybody, this actually, I'd like this to be kind of a participatory thing. If anybody else wants to share their stories, we'll figure out a way to, you can, maybe we could do some Zoom calls where we can 2 or 3 of us talking together, and we'll just record it and put it on YouTube for everybody to access or whatever. So you can either get a hold of me on the comments here, or anybody that we're friends on Facebook, etc. So anyway, just think about it, and who knows? Take it easy and Semper Fi, everybody. Talk to you later. Oh, long live Pig Alley. All right, toe critters and normal people. Before I get into the first story, I thought I'd talk a little bit about Pig Alley, because if you're not from Toes, and you're probably wondering where Pig Alley came from. So as far as I remember, this is the legend of Pig Alley. Tow Company was right next door to the battalion office. And on the weekends, when the officer of the day would do his rounds, his first stop would be at tow companies. And the first door to tow company that from the battalion office was first platoon. And now this all happened before I was there, before I got there. The Pig Alley had been around for a little while. Anyway, the lieutenant, the officer of the day, walked into first platoon on a Saturday or Sunday morning on a weekend, and there was people strewn around on the floors and half off of the bunks, and of course it was smelling like booze and other things, and he just walked in the door about 5 feet and just stopped and he said, "This place looks like Pig Alley," and then walked out the door. Well, a few people heard that, and they kind of liked that name, so it became Pig Alley. So by the time I got there people would write, "Long live Pink Alley," or Pig Alley. Sorry. People would say, right, "Long live Pig Alley." And actually, somebody had a stencil made up, one of those little cardboard stencils, and on the outside the door to all the squad bays that had first platoon, second platoon, etc. And so the doors were kind of like an off yellow beige, not quite baby shit, but close to that color. And then the writing was, got another cat. So the writing was in red. Well, somebody procure. Anyway, I can't get. Oops, sorry. I can't get that word out. But they found some of that colored paint, and every once in a while on a Friday night when the higher ups were gone, they would paint over the first platoon and take a red spray paint and stencil on Pig Alley on the outside of the door. And So there was a lot of Monday mornings. You come back from formation, and there'd be somebody repainting the door. So that door probably was a quarter inch thicker than all the other doors due to all the excess layers of paint. So anyway, so that's Pig Alley. So the first story that I'm going to start with it's not a long one or too involved or anything, but it's one that I'm sure a lot of you will feel. Yeah, it'll bring back some memories, I'm hoping. It's about the first actually during my own year on Okinawa with 3-4, we did a couple deployments on ship. We went up to Korea for Team Spirit in February of '79, and then we went up to Mount Fuji in the spring. So we went up, and then a couple months later we went back on ship, and both of those ships were LPDs. Actually, the first ship that I was on was Team Spirit, and it was named after my hometown, the USS Dubuque, LPD 8 or 9, I think. Actually, Dubuque was LPD 8, and LPD 9 was the Denver, which is what we took up to Fuji in the spring. So then later on in the summer, we did our just a complete Liberty cruise in probably in August. All right, actually, I looked up a reference point to bring it into focus as far as the time. It was we left Okinawa sometime in the middle of July, and then we headed down towards Hong Kong was our first port. And I know that we went to Hong Kong first, and because we had to leave, I think, a little bit early because Typhoon Hope was heading that way. And actually, I just looked it up. Typhoon Hope hit the mainland about 10 miles east of Hong Kong about on August 29th or August 6th. I'll get it right yet. August 2nd of '79, and by then we had moved out of port and had gotten out to sea to get past the worst effects of the typhoon. So we were in Hong Kong roughly the last few days of July in '79. Now, going to Hong Kong, especially back then, it was still a part of the United Kingdom, and there were two things that had people excited about going to Hong Kong. Basically, everybody wanted either tattoos or hand-tailored full three-piece suits. Of course, I was on the tattoo side myself. I know that most people that got tattoos, 40 years later, we've all still got our tattoos. Whereas most people that I think bought a three-piece suit at the end of the 70s probably didn't have much use for it just a couple of years later when they all went out of style with the wide lapels, etc. And although if anybody's watching that still has a suit that they bought in 1975, 79, and they still fit into it, kudos. But anyway, so that was what everybody was excited about. Well, of course, a couple days out of port, the last thing, what the brass did was they brought us in there for their briefing, because you always got a briefing before you went into port on what to expect and everything. And they came out with the edict that nobody could get tattoos due to back then it was the hepatitis was the big thing that you could get from unsanitary tattoo conditions and stuff, and telling a bunch of young Marines and sailors that and tattoo Hong Kong was I mean, legendary for its tattoo parlors, back then. Since tattoos hadn't hit the mainstream yet, and so it was still basically just the prisoners, biker gangs, and military were the people that like tattoos, and of course Hong Kong, it being the biggest seaport that it was all all the sailors and merchant marines and stuff that had all gotten to their tattoos in Hong Kong. Word spread. So anyway, of course, when we hit port, nobody, we all discussed it amongst ourselves, and we all said basically, they can't punish all of us if we all want to get tattoos. And so probably I'm just spitballing a guess here, but I'm thinking with the Marines and sailors on ship, we probably got 80% of. Well, actually, out of the enlisted, it was probably closer to 90%. Even with the officers thrown in, it was probably 80% of the men on ship got tattoos. Now I got to bring up. I didn't bring up what the ship that we were on. We were on the LKA 116, the St. Louis, and that was not a troop carrier like LPDs and LPHs that were been deployed on usually, and the LSDs. Those were all ships that were used to carrying Marines, and they knew kind of what to expect. Yeah, so the other amphibious ships dealt with Marines on a more regular basis, so they knew what to expect. The St. Louis was actually a amphibious cargo ship, so they took Marines, but only for transport. They didn't have them for operational, amphibious operations. It was basically just taking them one place to another. They had a small helipad, but not enough to take people in and off on a large manner. So they like I said, they weren't quite used to infantry Marines all the time like the other ships. So anyway, so we get to Hong Kong, and we go in there, and first thing, actually, no, we didn't go right to the tattoo parlors. We had heard through the grapevine that Hong Kong also had a McDonald's, and most of us hadn't had a McDonald's and hamburger in at least 6 months, maybe more. So the first thing we did when we hit land was we went right to the McDonald's, and the McDonald's there, I was amazed at the efficiency and the number of people that they had went through there in just a few short minutes. So when we got there and we looked, and the lines were about 20 people long at about 15 registers, and we were looking at it and thinking, man, we're not going to eat for hours. Well, we thought, oh, what the heck? We've been waiting 6 months. We got at the end of the line, and I don't know, maybe a minute later, we were at the front of the line getting handed our food. So that was a very good experience on Chinese efficiency. So anyway, so we all hit the tattoo parlors, and there weren't too many people that got just one tattoo. I mean, there were a few. There were a few that thought, oh, I got to get one, and actually, one guy got a tattoo on his chest of a dragon, about that big. And so when people saw it, the first response was usually, oh, that's cool, a butterfly. Did you get that for your girlfriend? But like I said, I was about well, I was probably at the upper end. I got 7 tattoos in like 3 days. Most people I knew got at least two to five was about average, I would think. But so we, after we left port, of course, the brass had to dole out some consequences, since they told us not to get tattoos. I mean, it was a official order, but then they also couldn't give everybody an Article 15, because that would have just tied up all the brass for, I don't know, months probably. So what they did was they gave us all working parties on the way to the Philippines. And actually, I should mention, when we pull out of port, I think we had to pull out maybe a day early to do the Typhoon Hope was on barreling on us. So we got out of the path of the typhoon, but you couldn't outrun the waves, because we didn't get all the wind and rain and all that stuff that was associated with it. But we did get the waves, and we hit like 2 days of just, it was, the ship was like doing 60-degree rolls, which the Navy guys told us that was like the max that you could do. Anything further than that, yeah, it's hit or miss on whether or not you're going to flip over or not. So basically, everybody was seasick, Navy and Marines. For some reason, there was at least 2 of us in our compartment that were not affected by the rolling for some reason. It was just me and Mr. Nice Guy, and we had, so we'd go up to dinner, and there was nobody in the galleys, so you didn't have to stand in line. You'd get whatever you wanted, because they were throwing most of the food out at the end of the meal. Anyway, we thought it was great. We come back from one meal, and he had actually gotten a care package from home. The last, when we did been in port or something, and so he brought, or maybe might even been from Okinawa. But, so he brought it with him, and it was one of those care packages of all the little salamis and cheese and crackers, and also back then you could smoke in the compartments. I mean, that was just, looking back, they were thinking about it 40 years later. That's just like unbelievable. Of course, I watch my parents' home movies, and they're sitting at the dinner table, while we're blowing out our birthday cake. They got cigarettes going, or sitting in the ashtrays with smoke coming up. And so anyway, Mr. Nice Guy and I come back from meal, and we were talking loudly about all the greasy bacon and everything that we'd had, biscuits and gravy, and people are already yelling at us to shut up. And so then he and I, he busted out his care package, and he had one of the stinky cheeses in there, and we started scooping that out and putting it on crackers, and people are starting to throwing stuff at us and telling us to get the hell out of there. So then, of course, after a nice meal and snack, Mr. Nice Guy had a couple cigars, and and they pretty much run us out of the compartment for the rest of the day. So anyway, they gave us all, after we got past the waves and stuff. We still had a little bit of time, a day or two, to get to the Philippines, and they gave us all working parties. So there was about I think maybe 8 or 10 of us dragons, that they sent us down to the engine room, and I think the highest ranking Marine was just Lance Corporals. We were all just we weren't the in charge type. So they turn us over to this chief and a couple other sailors, and they give us all a gallon of white paint and a big 4-inch white or paintbrush. So then they say, well, we're repainting the whole engine room, and and somebody at some point, this is where it shows the difference between the Navy mindset and the Marine mindset, and the fact that these guys weren't really used to dealing with Marines, and they're engine room guys. They don't see the light of day much. Anyway, they give us the paint and the paint brushes, and somebody, I'm pretty sure it was Mr. Nice Guy, said, "So you want us to paint everything?" And I'm sure the next day that the chief had a little long talk to the guy that answered that question, because he said, "Yes, I want you to paint everything." So so the Navy guys all left, and left a bunch of Marines in the engine room with big gallons of white paint and big brushes, and we painted everything. I mean, we painted all the little arrows on all the big pipes that showed you which way everything was going. Painted them. The regular valves that turned off things, and the red valves that for some reason they were paint, or they were red. So I'm assuming that they were a little more important. It don't matter. At the end of the day, they were all white. I think we even painted like everything except the treads of the stairs and the catwalks. so yeah, the next day, all the other people that had different working parties still had to do one more day of working parties, but all the engine room guys, we were done. So anyway, that's a story. That's the working party story, and then we went on from the to the Subic Bay and Alongapo, for the next part of our Liberty cruise. But those are stories for another day. So anyway, simplify, and we'll talk to you later, guys.
Blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where Harlem sits, putting on the ritz, spangled gowns upon a bevy of high brows run down the levee, all misfits, putting on the ritz.